All right, let's talk about a growing issue with racism. Uh, now, uh, I've watched quite a few PBS, CBS, NBC, Now This, Al Jazeera, CGNT, even I think a Italian or a European channel that was talking about the sentiment, which is destructive, about attacks on Asians. Now, Al Jazeera has a program called The Stream, and it was interesting to hear that South Korea was doing the ethnic bigotry, as well as Japan against the Chinese. Um, so it's not strictly outside of the U.S. It's not strictly uh, racism. It's ethnic violence. Um, so and not to say that it's not happening in Europe, because it happens in Europe. The and the thing is this is why being informed and educated and being able to think critically is so important. We keep doing this to ourselves. We hear, like, I remember when H1N1, SARS, MERS, Ebola, and all. It didn't occur to me to go attack people who are black, or slur them. It didn't occur to me to go after Asians or uh, or or any other during 9/11 and terrorism. It didn't occur to me to do, because I'm a rational person. I don't assume everybody, because of their ethnic heritage, is a terrorist or is a carrier of disease. I know, I'm informed, and I'm also empathetic. I'm compassionate, because my natural instinct isn't to attack. It's to understand that, hey, uh, things happen, and that many of those things that happen are beyond the control of most people. And it's like, it'd be like trying to. The way I look at it, it's like, uh, there's an earthquake that happens out in California, and let's say it triggers a super volcano, uh, like the one in Yellowstone. Am I supposed to blame Californians? That's how irrational it is. You know, it's just silly and destructive, because I know that there's going to be those who will take a a tragedy that is collectively hitting us, like this pandemic, and they're going to use that to divide, to get us to do dirty deeds so that they can capitalize on that. That's why Trump uses the Chinese virus, the Wuhan, and why others are using the Wuhan virus. Why Fox does what it does. It's a very, very orchestrated move, and this is counterproductive for us all. Let's. Many of you know, I've heard about the Black Plague, Black Death in Europe, and the thing is millions upon millions died, and it spread, wide into Russia, into Central Asia, called the Middle East. It went into East Asia. It went into Northern Africa. It went a lot of places. So, are we to blame? Are we to blame Western Europeans because that was where it started? Are we supposed to blame them? No, it makes no sense. This is not like a choice of going in, invading other places like the colonial era, and committing genocide and mass atrocities. That was a conscious choice. You can try to make excuses, but that was barbaric. That was savage. That was morally, ethically, principally wrong. And those that chose to have slaves and accept slavery as a norm, and look at others as being less, that's a conscious choice. As a society, we can choose not to do evil things, because that's what it is. It's evil. It's sinful. It's a crime. We can choose to accept truth or ignore it, which is the basis for ignorance, the root word for ignorance. When we ignore, we become ignorant. We become incurious. We become uninvested. So understand, I don't talk about. I don't like to talk about my ethnic heritage and those that look like me. And the reason why is because it's unnecessary. We have sentiment that everybody is human and so on and so forth, but do we truly believe it? Does everybody have equal value and equal right? But we know that that's not true. And the reason for that is fear. Fear makes us stupid, but it can also inform us. See, like I see fear as a signal to tell me to think, to consider, to see everything that is I can possibly come come to and understand. And that's why we all need to be like this, because otherwise we're just going to keep doing this to ourselves, and we're just going to keep making things worse, and we're going to bring we're going to bring children in a bond into bondage to these silly, irrational inst- it becomes instinct. It becomes permanent. And one thing I understand about science is that, like particularly in neuroscience, is that repetitiveness of how we think, how we move, how creates permanent neural connections, and that becomes something that's almost improbable to correct without actively trying to correct that. And that's what I do. There's a lot of things that I thought was normal that I've come to realize aren't. But maybe in a very bizarre and dark way, the my experiences, my life, my traumas, my pain allows me. No, it's not a maybe. It does. It allows me to understand and be compassionate and see that mistakes are mistakes. Of course, if you continue to make those mistakes over and over and over again, and you're not willing to budge and ignore and become ignorant, then really, there's not really much I can say about being empathetic and tolerant to that. I'm my empathy and my compassion has a limit, and that limit is not decades, not years, not decades. If you're not making an effort to be informed for your own self enlightenment, for your own ability to see more clearly, so that you can detect and combat those things that collectively makes us worse as a species, which translates into making our natural world a worse place, that keeps breaking down the very foundations that we all universally rely on, then I got no tolerance for that. I got no tolerance for you if you do that. That's selfishness, and you don't have to be. You don't have to be. Calling people niggers or chinks or gooks or using other slurs like that uh, to be propping up. You can be like my family who don't generally do that, but they're incurious and they're more concerned with their own personal lives, and they'll ignore the things that are done in their name, which isn't in their name at all. And I'm not saying that they're bad people, because most people live that way, which is why I've made videos about insularism and how insularism allows the truly weak to take control and pillage and plunder at will, with that legitimacy that we allow by our inaction, by our uninterest in our ignoring of truth, thereby cementing our ignorance, thereby bringing in the next generation. Was supposed to be the hope and light for a better future, and putting them into bondage because of our ignorance. I value children because they and the next generation do have that potential to create a better world, to give us a brilliant and bright future. But they can't do that if they can't think. They can't do that if they're boxed in. They can't do that if we ignore them. One of the things I hated when I was growing up was, children should be seen but not heard. That's the sort of mentality that's destructive. That's the sort of mentality that tells you that you're incurious, that you love your ignorance, that your immediate material and inconsequential mental and emotional needs takes precedence over actually finding curiosity and investment into actually building and working. And I've done a video on this. The most important work we can do is to have the mind, body, and the energy that the two create, that we call emotion, come into balance so that we can move forward. That's what I call spirit. And we can't have that if we ignore the truth. If we cannot invest in the well-being of the natural world and others of our species. It doesn't matter if they're in China or Europe or the United States or South America or Central America or Canada or wherever. It doesn't matter. We are all tied in. I've talked about philotic threads, and there's a theory of philotic threads in science, of how these invisible lines connect everything in the world and in the universe. It is the philotic threads play a key role in identical twins being separated by thousands of miles, but know what's going on with each other in some level. That's more than what we can do. That don't have fraternal twins. This is everything is interconnected. We are all interconnected. And for us to buy into what Trump says, or what the people on Fox or Breitbart or whatnot say, that's basically saying, "Hey, you're right, masters. Let me just hand myself over to you and carry out your will." You're basically, if you're a Christian or a Muslim or or Jewish or whatnot, you're basically saying that you're that you're coveting false idols, that you're using God's name in vain. Now, understand, I don't believe in God, but I was raised Catholic. So you're basically saying that you know God is your political leaders, your social leaders, your community leaders, or your favorite band or movie star or TV star, or the radio jockey who's spouting a whole buttload of lies and untruths. I watch a lot of media on YouTube, and I I work to suss out truth, because truth is the most important thing we can learn, that we can apply ourselves to. Otherwise, all we have is destructive chaos. All we have is committing slow suicide for ourselves. And we cannot call ourselves intelligent. We cannot call ourselves enlightened. We cannot call ourselves moral, ethical, or anything like that if we do not put the effort in. And putting that effort is the reward, because you have better understanding. Introspection is a wonderful thing, because introspection means looking into ourselves, to be able to think and be critical of ourselves. And when we start doing that, and we can come to a better truth, and we can translate that into conversations with others, which is what I'm doing on this video, that's how we build a better world. That is the work we should be doing. Introspection can apply to the sciences. It can apply to philosophy. It can apply to everything. We need to be more introspective and critical of ourselves and the so-called society we enable. And blaming other people who have really no control over how a germ or virus decides, that's just silly. This is why I always say education is so important. But doesn't mean that you go to get your education and you just take it all in wholesale and don't look at it more critically with introspection and not question it. Those are the people I value. They can look at it and they can say, "Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's completely contradictory, or schizophrenic, or wait a minute, there are actual real life examples of where that just doesn't make any sense. That's a sort of introspection we need to have. That's a sort of thinking we need to have. That's the sort of work we must do, because it in itself gives us security. It is enlightened self-defense. And the more we are informed, the more introspective we are, the less we have to be self-defensive about. That's where we start to roll into the world that we all need and deserve. Because there is a world of humans, and then there's the natural world. And right now, and for a long time throughout history, the human world has been in a silent declaration of war against the natural world. It's in the way we construct our societies. It's in the way we think. It's in the way we're taught to think. Just like how we have the coronavirus pandemic, and now we have an increase in ethnic virus, where your ethnicity makes you the demon, the devil, the beast, and yet the real beasts are largely ignored, and they get away with it, and they garner more from us collectively by doing that. Thank you.